Okay.
So, how did the family reunion go?
Well, um, it was decent. It was enjoyable to some extent. Um, I'm still kind of trying to feel out where I kind of fit with my wife's relatives.
Right.
Um, everyone else has had several years most of the time to kind of find their groove and the people they hang out with most and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, there were there was a little bit of tension um, that I felt between myself and my father-in-law.
Still.
It seems to be that most times that we are in contact with each other, there is something that we have conflict with.
I've been thinking about it. Do you think that he feels the same tension? Or do you think since you've gone so far without really having that conversation with him about, hey, dude?
Um, I don't think he wants to see it,
Mm.
and so I think he's a little more oblivious. Um, that also is part of the reason that we have conflict sometimes
Yeah.
because he can be oblivious to things he doesn't want to see.
Like?
Um, I don't know a specific example right now.
Yeah.
The best example I can think of is our relationship. Just that um, he doesn't seem to want there to be tension between us.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't see tension between us. Um, I think I am a pretty reserved guy when it comes to people who are outside of my close knit group. Even if I'm at work and enjoying myself and I'm working with colleagues that I've worked with for years, I still think a lot of them don't know me on a deep personal level. And so I know I've kept him at arm's length on a lot of me. Yeah. Partly for my protection, partly because I don't want I don't really want him. To know that I have tension with him to an extent. I think that mostly that my ideal would be just that you know we get on better terms, me change and him change to find more of a um, agreeable relationship for the two of us. But I don't really want to have a conversation, especially a knockdown, drag out conversation. And I feel like
Okay.
my wife's family mostly deals with knockdown, drag out conversations, and then they feel better afterwards. And that's not how I was raised. Um, we can have very honest and truthful, reasonable conversations in my family, I think. Um, but there's no raised voices most of the time. Um, it's just a very, very different family dynamic, and I don't
Right.
want to. I don't respond positively to a knockdown, drag out conversation, argument in that situation, in my opinion. Um, so I don't want to have that with him.
Which furthers the arm's length type
Correct.
thing, so that doesn't happen.
Correct. But more than likely, that's also one of the reasons why we aren't having a super agreeable, relationship is because I'm keeping him at arm's length. So there's only a certain level of camaraderie we can have because I'm not allowing much.
Daniel, do you want camaraderie with him though?
I do, but I also think that my opinions of him are correct, and so
Aw.
I don't want to support the behaviors that I don't like in him
Mhm.
that I think are can be detrimental to his kids and my sister, brother-in-law, and my wife. I don't want to support those habits or those
Characteristics that he
characteristics.
has. Right. It's almost like clapping at bad behavior in your
Correct.
mind.
I don't want to positively reinforce
Right.
um, his characteristics, as you said. Yeah.
That's totally understandable. So, in your mind, when you talked a little bit about ideal situation, I want to know what he looks like in your mind ideally.
Ideally, he would not be as aggressive towards his family. Not really at all in any physical way. I just see him as very passionate,
Mm,
um, and that comes out in his words and his volume and his tone. Um, and to me, that kind of passion is reserved for the truth and right versus wrong. Like I would not have the same passion when talking about normal everyday things if it weren't vitally important. And I feel like he just uses it. He just has a lot of passion, and it just bursts with whatever he says,
with aggression.
and it comes across very aggressively, especially if it's a neutral or negative way that he's talking about something.
And because of the way that you have grown up, your family, specifically, you said that y'all were more chill, more relaxed. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good thing. And passion can be too. It's just you're right about that, Daniel. You're right, and that passion should be focused on things that are meant to be passionate toward. So you are right about that. Not looking to condone his actions, but looking to find an exception to what he seems to consistently show in his character of aggression. Is there an exception to this aggression that he seemingly puts out all the time? Is there a way to, encourage an exception? Like, is there a specific time that you can think that, you see that happens in a pattern where he is not aggressive? That you can be like, I like that, and then say something to him about
I think so, and I think maybe even I might not even really been trying to. I just finally was able to agree with him on something until I spoke up a little bit.
it.
The way he treats his youngest daughter, she's in middle school. The way he treats his youngest daughter is probably, in my opinion, the best that he's treated any of his kids.
He had that practice.
And well, I'm being a little too biased on that. I think the way he's treating his youngest daughter is closest to how I would treat my children. And so I agree with him in most of the way that he treats his youngest daughter.
Yeah.
She is in middle school, and I think that it just seems that he has more care for her. I know he loves all of his kids, and I've never doubted that, and I really appreciate how he's provided for them, and he wants each of them to be independent, and I appreciate that. But I think that he shows definitely the most care for his youngest daughter, and that I do want to speak up and talk to him about. I think I have mentioned it. Definitely wanted to be around him most when his youngest daughter is there. It seems to mellow him out. It seems to make him smile more when she's in the room. Those types of things.
Well, then I would say focus on that when y'all are around each other. I know it is so easy for our human minds to just fixate on that negativity. But it is critical that we fight against that so that we can come to the other side of a challenging aspect in life. It is critical that we think about the positive aspects of a not so awesome situation. And it really is. It is so difficult for anyone to become and find their place, like you said, in a new family. But you can do it. And I think looking for those positive aspects, even with the hard ones, like a father-in-law to a son-in-law relationship, I think it will help.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.